What's up, everyone? We have a great episode for you today. We are live right now in the CannaBuzz community, and we are also live right now, or not live actually. You're watching a recording on YouTube. But thank you so much for joining us on YouTube. Like and subscribe for more great videos. This one's going to be a good one. We are joined by Wolf from Groovy Gravy. We're going to be getting into his story, his backstory. He was involved in Indo Expo, which was a great cannabis industry expo event that was going on for several years, and now he's back with all kinds of different things, including the Secret Stash event that's coming up in just a couple weeks. So we'll get into that in just a minute, but before I do, I need to hit you with a couple different shout outs. First off, shout out to our friends over at Grove Bags, grovebags.com. Use the code CannaBuzz for 7% off your next order. A Grove bag is a bag. This is the quarter pounder size bag, but they come in all sorts of different sizes. Here's one inside of a bag, and they go all the way up to like trash can size. And basically it's a bag that you can use to cure your weed. So you dry it like in a 4x4 like this. You dry it, and then you just put it in the Grove bag. You don't have to worry about burping or anything like that. So check it out, grovebags.com. Use the code CannaBuzz. And then also shout outs to our friend TikiMadMan over at Tiki Seeds. He's always hitting us up with the latest deals and collaborations and all sorts of things. So let's see what the latest is from Tiki. It's the Moon Runts, which is White Runts times Candy Rain. It's Moon Runts 2.0. And it's a free pack with purchase of t-shirt or hoodie plus 20% off. Wow. And is that over at tikiseeds.com?
Yes, it is. Yeah, it is.
Awesome. And then lastly, right before we get on with the interview, shout out to our community members. We've got a bunch of people that are watching us live right now in the live chat. We're going to be doing a giveaway of seeds at the end of the stream for our live viewers. So if you want to join us and join our community and help support the show, join the CannaBuzz community. Search CannaBuzz in the App Store or search CannaBuzz app on your phone and join the community. Use the code GROWERSLOVE for 50% off your first month, and your support goes a long way towards helping us keep this thing going on, and it also helps us fund things like shipping seeds across the country and all that good stuff. Excuse me while I hopefully not choke. All right, let's get into the intro. Groovy Gravy was founded by cannabis industry vet Stephen Wolf. He's now known for helping build the standard for premier events during the dawn of legalization, and he's continuing to push the boundaries on the culture around cannabis today. He first broke into the scene as one of the leaders and creative minds behind the Indo Expo, the last great cannabis trade show in America, and those golden years of Indo Expo and the future of. We're going to be talking about the golden years of the Indo Expo, and then we're going to be talking about the future of Groovy Gravy and all that and more. Thank you so much for joining us today, Stephen Wolf.
Thank you, man. I'm happy to be here.
I know you went through some trouble to get here. Denver's been kind of crazy lately, huh? Welcome to the show, brother. Glad to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm sorry for the delay. Yeah, we are going through. I'm from Florida, so I'm used to thunderstorms. So we're going through I feel like first real storm season since I've lived here, which is for a while now. So
yeah, that's crazy. I was over there, like I said, about a week ago, and it was getting nuts. So the first thing we like to start the show off with is to let the people kind of get an idea of who you are and what your journey has been like. So we always ask our guests to tell us how you fell in love with the plant and how it's gotten you where you are today.
And how I fell in love with the plant. I come from a family that was always pretty accepting of the plant, so I feel like falling in love with it was maybe a little bit easier than some people's journey where they're kind of going through their parents kind of looking down on it and then finding, whether it's through business or through consumption, like a positive way to look at it. I've always kind of looked at it in relatively positive way. So it's never been like a bad thing to me. I'd say I fell in love with it when I got my first clones. I am probably I think I was 17 years old. I went to meet with this guy to buy some lights, and he said, I think he saw that I was super passionate about the plant, and he told me, "Hey man, if you tell me your address and you give me a day that's good for you to meet up, I'll bring you a couple plants that I think will really change your life." And then he brought me, probably like a week and a half later, a tray of 9 clones of Triangle Kush that I grew, as my first like elite clones. When I was I mean, I'd grown for probably like a year and a half or 2 years at that point. It was like the first not from seed plant that was just an actual elite that I grew and was like, wow, this is what weed really can be. And it was, I don't even know how to explain it. It was, not only has it impacted my palate for the rest of my life as a person that consumes cannabis and thinks about how it's affecting my taste buds, but it's affected every part of my life since then. So I'd say that's probably where I fell in love right there. It was this cool guy. He was like an old, maybe he was super short, maybe 5'3" or 5'4". He had like dead tattoos from the dead, like all across his body. He reminded me of like someone that would be my dad or my uncle. And I think we connected when we were talking. Like he felt that I was like, I don't know. He felt that I like actually cared about something that he loved too. Um, and dude, those, I mean, when you get something like Triangle Kush for the first time, that's much different than just finding a random seed. You're like, holy shit, this is
Yeah, because
this
I
is
imagine in Florida there was probably a lot of imported, weed. There wasn't probably the best weed was maybe a guy like that guy who had his own setup. You know, everything available commercially was probably poor.
I think Florida doesn't get a lot of credit for like the grow game, but I think before legalization, as far as like having actual like people that cared about strain specific tastes or like just cultivars that were providing you with like just people that were actual strain seekers. I think Florida was actually probably one of the places that people could do it. We had a place called Sanford north of Orlando that I know just from selling weed, like we had so many growers there that cared about um so much more than just like having something to sell that they could make money off of. And it was because Florida is so humid, it was huge for indoor cultivation. So like in this
Yeah.
place that had cheap real estate, um, there were tons of people that really cared about growing the plant, but and did it in an indoor environment. It wasn't like California or somewhere else where it had a lot of really cool stuff going on outdoors. It was like a ton of weird places that turned into 50 to 150 lighters.
That's cool because a lot of us have a different on the West Coast kind of have a skewed perspective of what the grow scenes are like in prohibition states. So like for me, I don't have any idea of what the grow scene is like in Louisiana, but I could probably guarantee there's one.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. In Florida, I think it's probably one of those states that had a whole lot of it.
That's
So
awesome. So now
yeah.
kind of fast forwarding, you're in Colorado and you have the opportunity to be involved with the Indo Expo. Can you kind of talk about how that whole concept came together as a trade show and what your involvement in that was?
Yeah, 100%. So we had, man, it was crazy. We had 2 people, Chris and Stephanie. Chris was kind of like um, and Chris was just an old grower that loved weed, like an uncle to me, someone that I loved very much that was just very passionate about the plant. And then Stephanie, who was kind of someone that knew how to throw events for the most part, that wasn't terribly passionate about the plant, but kind of knew that Chris was a good person to make the idea happen with. They created the concept and kind of launched it on like a smaller scale. And then I joined the team right after they kind of started to like just get out there, and I helped them start to market and brand and sell it on a larger scale than just like 30 or 40 booths to like I mean, at the last Indo Expo, we had 458 individual exhibitors and sponsors, I think. So it was a huge thing from the time that I started. And then we had kind of developed it and turned it into, because I was obsessed with genetics, and Chris was a grower. So it was really easy for me to just me and him to work together to be like, okay, like I want to turn this into, I always had the vision of bringing people to the trade show through their passion for the plant. And I have always thought, and I always have explained this to everyone I've ever been involved with in events, that the passion for the plant starts with the seed, and it starts with the breeders and the people that are developing the genetics. It's like easy for me to see, maybe not super easy for people that are distant from the community or something like that. But like, even if you think about it, even if you want to go on a higher level of like marketing and stuff, when you think of people that are, like when you think of cannabis people, Snoop Dogg or all these people, like when they're talking about in their songs and all these things, they're describing a strain or a feeling or something. And that strain or feeling is created by the person that understands or develops the genetics.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, those guys are still the rock stars in our community.
That's exactly what I say.
And when they put forth their work, a lot of times it's a lot invested for these guys. And some guys, depending on what their style is, there's a lot of time invested. And so some of the offerings that we get that just transcend every aspect that you could imagine and what the genetic expressions can offer is amazing. So when you have folks like Neptune and even like Seeds Here Now who have access to all these amazing breeders, and you're able to get access to stuff that 15 years ago there's no way, or 20 years ago everything we were getting was coming from Attitude, and so now it seems like we have an opportunity to have access to some of the most amazing offerings, and these home breeders and these small scale breeders, they're putting out stuff that is incredible too. So I think to see that whole thing as the starting point of everything, all the way up to our conversations on a podcast or the industry trade show that you were involved with, it all starts from the seed. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I mean, so much happens right there before anything else. So
Wolf,
so much thought, so much time, so much, I mean, there's like everything. Even before we throw an event or before we grow the weed or before we smoke it or process it or anything else, someone put so much time and love, if you're seeking it out the right way, into just that seed. So I think it's overlooked for sure.
Yeah, I attended the Indo Expo in San Francisco, and I think that was like in 2018, the one in in Richmond.
In Richmond, yeah, we did it. Yeah, right at that. Man, that venue is cool, huh?
Yeah, it was really cool.
Wasn't our greatest show ever, but that was.
It's a good spot. They actually did the Emerald Cup
they
awards
swagger
at it.
jacked us hard. Yeah, they did.
Yeah, I used to live not too far from there. I could so it was really cool when you guys did that event. It was practically in my backyard. But anyway, so one of the great things about the Indo Expo was the speakers. Like I remember that one that I went to. I think Shango Los basically had like a area that was like kind of curated by him, and I thought that was cool that you were tapped into that, right? Where with guys like Shango, and for those that aren't familiar viewers that are watching the show, Shango has a great podcast called Shaping Fire, and he does a lot of really great interviews with organic growers and gets into the details of compost and so on and so forth. So anyways, that you guys were that tapped in to have a guy like that that's helping you guys curate or host or whatever it was, that was really cool. Can you talk to us about like how that happened, or how did you guys kind of curate your speakers, I guess?
Yeah, 100%. So, I mean, so much of that has to go to our seminar director, coordinator, Mike Marquez, who is a super close friend of mine. We would all just always have an open line of communication open as far as who we think should be involved. And we were way different than I think a lot of trade shows where we're all not just industry people in the sense of like professional industry people, but industry people in the sense of people that were obsessed with the plant, for lack of a better word, and we're always seeking out people similar like Shango, and because of that, we're always constantly communicating with speakers and constantly communicating with Mike on who we thought should be there and who would be the best fit and who would be good for the people that were going to come, and who would be good for the people that were going to spend money on tickets, and how could we get the people that typically wouldn't come out to speak because it was a little bit more of an organic trade show than something like MJ BizCon, that you'll have like a lot of maybe the higher end business people, but not people that touch the plant. So it was I think it was one of the most important conversations that we always had as a group. And Mike was so good at taking those conversations and making them happen. So
I got to thank you, because at the time I was working for I still am working for the Dude Grow Show. And we would use those events as a way to network and to get guests and to get interviews. And the last one that went down, Frenchie Cannoli was there. And for me to be able to get Frenchie to come on and agree to do an interview, that I know he doesn't do that a lot, and he didn't do that a lot. So that touched my heart greatly. And that has always made a huge impact on my journey. And those times at the Indo Expo and those speakers, they would help give us information that was next level information that we could use. Not how to tag my plant, you know what I mean? And I think we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but
gotta give a lot of love to Mike Marquez for that. Honestly.
The speakers were very valuable to the community as a whole, not just maybe a specific group of individuals, I guess I'd say.
Yeah, I think that has to mostly do with the fact that we not only were we people that were running the company, but also were boots on the ground as far as the passion that we had for it. And because of that, we knew who was actually touching the people in the community as opposed to who had the most money for marketing.
Right.
Well, I think that's something we should talk about. I mean, because if you look at the trade shows today, they're very geared towards industry. Although that kind of cultural love has kind of been sucked out of it. And that was one of the genius things about that Indo Expo at the time, was the way that it was able to balance culture and industry and bring in everyone from home growers who were looking for the fire genetics to guys that were running bigger operations. And so can you kind of talk about how how that recipe was so different than what you're seeing today?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't think it really has anything. There's nothing more to do with it than the fact that there were people that that loved something enough to make it happen, like an event, because an event is just a lot of planning. Like even what I do today is just a lot of individual parts that has to be put together, and are so deeply caught up with or intertwined with the industry that they're in, because they're actually consumers and people that love what they're doing, that they can find the right people to do it with. I don't think it has like I don't think there's like a secret recipe or anything. I think it was the fact that like we were all working towards, and especially the younger people like me that were like, I always had Chris, who was one of the people that was running the Indo Expo with me, and one of the owners that was an older person that maybe didn't understand what was happening right now as much, but was a person that had grown for 25 years, that was like just someone that loved the plant. And it's very easy to communicate with someone about what's happening now if they've loved it for their whole life. and they just maybe they don't know Instagram, or they don't know this one thing,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
That's happening a lot right now because things are moving so fast. And to be honest with you, trade shows are kind of dead in the States, anyways. And
No,
so
they're completely dead.
So these guys are scrambling to figure out a new way to get their product in people's faces, and it's opportunities like podcasts and cultural events seem to be doing well. You know, these cultural events that allow you to pop up a few industry tables and stuff like that, or booths or whatever. Those are going to be the opportunities that these guys need to start getting themselves geared towards, and being able to be present in media is a huge part of it. Branding and
100%.
media.
Absolutely, yeah. Because I mean, traditionally, when you think about most businesses with trade shows, like there are a couple big trade shows every year, even one big trade show every year, and then there's micro events throughout the year, like what Groovy Gravy throws with my new company, that are just more culturally relevant to get a specific group of people in the room to show them something or to taste something or whatever it may be. If you think about like concrete or lumber or all these like very large industries, they have one really big trade show in Las Vegas every year, like we kind of have now with MJ BizCon.
Right.
And then there's smaller things in between, that are more like in touch with the community, that are happening when that big thing is not happening.
Yeah, totally. Well, so can you talk to us about what were some of the challenges of putting on an event like Indo Expo? Like one of the things I was thinking about, like, was it hard to find a venue that lets you put on a thing like Indo Expo? Or just like what kind of shit would get thrown your way when you're trying to put on something like that?
So I think, it was a non-consumption event. So to find spaces that allow for non-consumption are not really, it's not like that crazy hard. Maybe hard back then, but there was a partnership that had already been formed by Chris with the Denver Mart to kind of make that happen. So that was never like a big deal. And I really don't think it is a terribly big deal unless people are smoking in the building and you openly I know that just from, I do both now with consumption and non-consumption events. When you add that layer of vaporizing or combusting, it makes it 10, 100 times harder to find a venue. When you even just don't openly admit to the consumption aspect, or you're just not really, you're have the right signage up to let people know that you can't consume here or whatever it is, because people are always, even you go to Red Rocks or something, people are smoking weed. It's just, it happens. If you properly protect yourself, the venues don't have to worry too much about that. I think the biggest issues, obviously, I think one of the major issues is something we still have to deal with today, is banking.
Yeah.
I know Indo Expo, Groovy Gravy, insert random company that works with anyone that has something to do with cannabis, and you're going to have a banking issue. I know I had a bank account shut down. Indo had 10 bank accounts shut down. I'm having to deal with a bank account shut down in the middle of an event right now to open up another bank account. So, and I even have some events that I do that are not like advertised, that are not cannabis forward at all. They're like nonprofit and random things, but still, just still, you get money from the wrong person, and next thing you know, the random bank doesn't want to have a relationship with you anymore. So I think that's a huge issue. I think the kind of gray area that they keep us in as cannabis hospitality people, because I think there's a huge space for cannabis hospitality, and people that have money in the hospitality business understand that. And because it's not federally legal, a lot of these hospitality companies are not going to take that risk until it is federally legal. So the way to deal with competition is to make it as difficult as possible to follow the rules. So we have to operate in this relatively gray area at all times. And you're almost creating rules because you know what not to do. And I think that's if you want to create a really my goal as a person that throws events is to create a really comfortable environment for people. And when you don't even know all of the rules, not because of like ignorance, but because they haven't been made yet, it makes it really difficult to create something to make an environment that is as comfortable as it can be. So I think that's probably my biggest um, speed bump
Right.
and
Yeah,
figuring everything out.
and then at the end of the year, we won't even talk about tax and trying to deal with write-offs that aren't available to you.
Yes, I
But
mean that's that I just leave out.
yeah, right. We'll just skip over that. Let's so just kind of wrapping up that whole Indo Expo experience and how magical and wonderful that was. Can you kind of tell us some of the big takeaways that you got that have kind of helped you lead into and be successful with Groovy Gravy?
Yeah, so I think probably one of the larger takeaways is when we were doing everything for the trade show, I would always see the value, especially as the person that would be bringing the most vendors in. I would see the value in like after parties and like side events or consumption events or like little dinners or like having hors d'oeuvres or whatever it may be. Um, and I would always create an after party or something we booked at Indo. And the little after parties that I made, we booked The Far Side, we booked Wu Tang, we booked Del the Funky Homo Sapien or Deltron if you want to like really get technical. And I saw the value in having entertainment and consuming and just how great cannabis is for hospitality there outside of like a B2B event. And I think that's really where Groovy Gravy started to come to fruition. Even before it was a thought, was having these bands or things happening and then having little side events that I threw with them for our vendors just to have sponsorship value or whatever it is, and then having it turn into a completely different thing that was really far more worth it to these people where they talked about it for a long time afterwards. And it kind of shows you how incredible, it showed me at least how incredible cannabis is for hospitality.
And so that's
really
kind of
the
the
gravy comes from.
direction that you've moved into. And so what is kind of your guys' mission at Groovy Gravy?
Is to provide people with a comfortable experience with cannabis and something else they love, to relate it to something, whether it's music or food or got cocktail or music or really it could be anything. Just to be that bridge that kind of introduces them to something they love and shows them that it is better with cannabis sometimes.
Nice.
So talk to us about the kind of the lineup at the secret stash. It looks like, quite a few names on the poster there. So can you explain, how folks will get access to the genetics there and just what people can expect, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. So you want me to kind of like break down how the event works?
Yeah.
Sure.
Or
Yeah. Just let
like
people know
who's going to be there?
what is the secret stash? Because I'm actually new to the concept, so let me know what it is, and then especially on the genetics front, because we got a lot of growers in the audience.
Yeah. So I would say the Secret Stash is a pop-up, a single day event that takes all of the lessons that I learned and mistakes I made and that really we made with the people that were involved with Indo Expo, and tries to get rid of them and makes it as seamless and kind of as enjoyable of an experience for not only the maybe ticket buyer, but also the breeder and exhibitor and artist or whoever else is involved in the event. So it is about a one-day event that has different buying, I guess, kind of times. We do hour time slots, 4 of them, that we do for 1 hour each with 30-minute intermissions. And in that hour, you go to the vendors that are genetics focused. So you're able to purchase seed, walk around and get whatever you need. Then we filter you kind of to our outdoor section where it's more art and food, and we have live spray painting and a live band, and really a ton of different random things. We'll have a kind of like a little arcade area, just a lot of stuff to do. We bring some of the best food vendors from Denver, some people that you would typically only get if you like got a ticket for a pop-up or a random thing that you had to wait in line for. And they're all there because they're friends that we've made from the food events. And then some cannabis focused vendors. Yeah, it's really just kind of like part block party, part Indo Expo.
Yeah, it's really cool. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm actually going to be there. And for all our CannaBuzz listeners out there, I'm going to be getting some on-site, on-location interviews with some of these breeders. And we're going to have some really good content coming from the secret stash real soon.
Yeah, it should be
All
awesome.
right.
And like to speak to the breeders that you were talking about, like as far as who's going to be there. I mean, we have been able to get really lucky with the selection that we'll have this year, and have been able to tap into friends that we've had from Indo Expo and stuff in the past. So, I mean, we'll have everyone from like Exotic Genetics. Cap has got a whole drop for it. Capulator, Alien Genetics has a drop for it. Obviously, I know Tiki's one of your sponsors. Tiki's a sponsor of the event as well. We have Bloom Seco and Top Dog and Masonic in-house, Canorado, I mean, Clearwater, Soulfire, Raw. A lot of people I'm super proud to have there. And
yeah, and shout out to Dominion Seed Company. I think Duke Diamond's going to be there.
Duke's going to be there.
And
sure.
Neptune Seed Bank will be
Yeah.
there. We'll be having all kinds of great offerings. And another one I think you guys should look out for is Ronin Seeds. Ronin, I think, is going to be on the come up. So keep an eye out for Ronin.
Yep, Ronin. I think he'll be at a booth with Canorado. So a lot of cool stuff coming up for sure.
The offerings are going to be off the charts, man. I'm telling you, there's going to be some incredible stuff there. I'm really excited about that. So now, with the secret stash, and we've kind of explained how the workings of it go. What is it like asking and dealing with breeders and breeder fans and all that go along with getting all these guys to be under one roof as a one big happy family? Can you kind of talk about that a little bit, about the love for in the breeding community?
And I think I think a lot of people think there's a lot more ego with the breeders than there really is. They're pretty like they understand the cannabis space more than anyone else. I mean, maybe there's some people in other verticals and stuff that get it as much as they do, but they really have a very good understanding. So I think if you could provide them with something that is not corny, that they would actually want to hang out at, where someone actually put a little bit of thought into how they were going to sell, and how comfortable they'll be, and how shitty sometimes it can be to be at a really big event. I think they just want someone that's thinking about like how much it could suck to be part vendor, part movie star for an event. And I think once you think about that, it's not like they don't want to hang out with the community that is supporting them.
Yeah. And I think for a lot of those guys, it's probably attractive to have a one-day pop-up to where they're not doing a 3-day, 4-day grind. You know what I mean? Just come down, have a really good time, interact with the community, and pack up and go.
We're all friends too. Like they get like, not only do you like pack up, like hang out, make some money, see people that you've known for the last 25 years.
Yeah.
forge new memories with them or something. It's not like they make. I tried to build the format of the show in a way that it was like, how could I tap into the community that we had at Indo Expo, but provide a show for actually like people that are actually the breeders instead of just B2B people that were there because the breeders were bringing people.
Yeah,
Like
because
how
at
can
the
I
end
make
of the
it?
day, that's what happened. You would have
Mhm.
that Indo Expo event. You'd walk around, and everybody who had a line stretching almost out the door would be the breeders. Those guys
Yeah,
were the rock stars that brought the people, for the most part, that brought the people in the door to begin with.
no, I literally built the structure of the way that we built the whole room for the last two shows off of that. So, I mean, like where we put booths
Yeah.
was based off of where the right breeders were placed, and of course, they would get incredible spaces for not even an additional cost, but it would be a traffic flow thing.
Right,
Um,
sure. Yeah, no, that
so
makes a lot of sense. That's very smart from a business perspective.
man, and it also just from a safety perspective too, when you have people flowing through a room as opposed to getting stuck somewhere. I mean, I
Yeah.
learned from one year, I think maybe 2018, when Cap released, it was 19. I don't know when it was, maybe just 2018. When he did the Mac 1, he had a 6.5 hour line at the Indo Expo. Like I had to change the next year. I had to change where he was and where we put everyone,
Yeah,
and
right.
how we thought about things, because it was a
Yeah.
fire. It would have been a issue that we dealt with the fire marshal for. It would have been a fire hazard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
people like that had booths around them would be pissed because they were getting blocked, more or
Yeah.
less boxed out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've
That
seen the
was
same thing at Emerald Cup.
yeah.
Yeah.
And they've had to learn the same sorts of lessons. So, let's talk about some of the artists and the art that folks can expect at the Secret Stash.
Yeah, for sure. So we do. I'll try to explain. So basically, when you come into the Secret Stash, you'll be inside for 1 hour. The inside area has all vendors that are focused on genetics. Once that hour is over, you get to go outside, and outside we have food, art, um, really more culture and experience based stuff. So some of the art, we'll have people live spray painting. We build 8x8 walls every year.
Cool.
We have people live spray painting those walls. Some of my friends are some of the greatest spray painters in the city, and stuff that you could expect to see on like the walls and stuff that you've seen if you just walked around downtown Denver.
Which I
They'll be
love.
painting there. We'll have some of the best food in the city. We have Little Arthur's Hoagies popping up. Little Arthur's Hoagies, if you haven't had it yet, it's kind of northeastern style sandwiches or hoagies, and they are, I think it's some of the best food in the city. And it's stuff you typically would, either wait for or like they sell out within an hour and a half online.
Yeah.
And they'll just be there where you can go and walk up and order.
It's gonna be great. I'm
It's gonna be
excited.
awesome. Yeah,
I'm
it's gonna be really
excited.
cool.
It's gonna be a good time.
We'll have like cannabis focused vendors, people that sell jewelry, tie dyes. It's almost like a lot that you'd find at a really good concert.
Nice.
Excellent.
And then afterwards, we have a whole after party that we throw with Explore Glass Gallery. Vinny, a buddy of mine, owns Explore Glass Gallery. He does a show with Eugene, and there'll be a skateboarding contest 4 blocks away, where we have Clint Walker and Ben Rayborn as like judges, where it's a best trick contest sponsored by 710 Labs and a bunch of other people. So it'll be a really cool after party too.
Hell yeah. So speaking about the food, the Secret Stash is not the only event that Groovy Gravy does. You guys also have some supper club event type stuff, and I'm kind of a foodie nerd, and I would really like for you to kind of talk about how that goes down and maybe how people could get involved with that.
Yeah, 100%. So we do a bunch of like consumption, I guess consumption events would be the best way to say it. We have a supper club. We have a brunch event called Fresh Off the Press, where basically we do pairings where we take hash, press it into rosin at the event, and pair it to food and juice and coffee and all that stuff. Supper club is a format that's like a 5-course meal that we do with the chef that picks the food. We work with the chef to develop a menu and a pairing that the 5 courses go with hash. And then we have a cocktail party that we do with Death & Co., which is a popular, I guess, cocktail bar in the city, but kind of in the country too. They're one of the best cocktail bars, period. And they have like the best-selling cocktail book for years now. We do an event we call Cocktails in the Clock Tower, where we do a pairing of THC, like simple syrup cocktails that we work with dialed in with.
So it's
and we do like a pastry thing.
It's an infused simple syrup that you use to put in a variety of cocktails that then allow them to be infused.
Yep, exactly.
Brilliant. That's awesome. I've heard of people infusing like sugar, but I've never heard of anyone do it for simple syrup to make cocktails. That's next level. Awesome.
Yeah, we kind of developed that with them for this event. We've done it for the last 3 years.
So what were some of the most memorable courses that you remember being served at some of these events?
Ooh, that's a really good question. We have had some incredible like pairings. I think even from like the first one that we did like a Dana Rodriguez is a wonderful chef and kind of the mind behind Working Class and Super Mega BN, but she's also working with Casa Bonita right now to develop their menu. And she did a fried chicken for our first dinner.
Oh man.
And it was incredible. We've had some really good we've been blessed to work with a lot of really good chefs like Dana. Last one we were with Jose Avila, who's a James Beard nominated chef and has a really cool restaurant called La Diabla. And we had a 5-course meal, but then 2 cocktail pairings to go with it, and like a palate cleanser. And
wow.
Yeah, when you find a chef that like actually loves weed, and you like explain to them how, when you really kind of relate cannabis to them in a sensual way, like taste wise, and they start to like taste it or smell it, not just like this, like, oh, it smells like a skunk, like a lot of people that smoke weed but don't love weed will do. But when you just sit with them and put like thoughtful, just have a thoughtful conversation with them about it, the things that they smell and taste and come up with are like crazy, because I feel like sometimes it just requires a little bit of just a thoughtful conversation to turn into like, oh, that just smells like every other weed that I've ever smelled.
Yeah.
To like actually sit there and be like, wow, I completely understand what you were just talking about.
Especially someone who's so reliant on their sensory experiences to be able
100%.
to produce what they produce. So to be able to bleed that into like terpene profiles and stuff like that must be thrilling for them and you as well. I can only imagine.
Yeah.
That's really cool that you guys do that. So how many of those do you do typically in a year, and how do people get involved? I mean, I'm down 100%. How am I at that next dinner party getting that chicken?
So every event that we have a wait list on our website. It's groovygravy.com, where you can sign up. We pick at random of the people that sign up for the wait list and then shoot out invitations. We give everyone like a specific amount of days, depending on the event, to sign up before we move to like more people on the list and release it to more people. And we just slowly do that until the event's sold out. And that's how we do that. like as far as just getting involved. You could also, like, if you have questions or information on our Instagram, we're pretty quick on getting back. So
Well, I did sign up for the newsletter on the website, and I was told that I'll get emails for invitations and all that fun stuff, correct?
yeah, exactly. And we just
Perfect.
kind of slowly taper it out to give everyone a chance to purchase it before we kind of like send out a massive blast or anything like that. We try not to do that.
Cool. Well, it's been great. I mean, our conversations here have been pretty amazing because we've been able to talk about your journey in the Indo and your journey here now, right as you come back. So one thing we want to do is we're going to do a little shout out to shop the CannaBuzz gear at shop.cannabuzz.app through your browser. And then we also like to have our guests do a final shout out. And so kind of give us a market report and booth prices if we're interested in participating in a booth next year or this year, if there's still booths available.
So we don't have any booths up this year. As far as price goes, the next year, depending on, it's really venue dependent. We kind of try to change it up every year.
Yeah.
What I would say is any like questions or if you want to get involved or anything like that, the best way to communicate is through Instagram. If you prefer, you can shoot a direct email to me, which is just Steven with a PH at itsgroovygravy.com, and I can get you like any information or help that you need within pretty short time frame.
What was the Instagram handle?
At It's Groovy Gravy, ITSGROOVY
Cool. Awesome. And I guess any other places where people should find you or look you up or whatever, if they're like, hey, this guy was cool and I want to go look him up, where should they go?
I would say just go to that Instagram, probably the best way. I know it's like sad to say that, but as we're kind of crippled as cannabis people to have to use this very photo dependent platform.
Well, I hear you. Well, thank you so much for joining us this week. I know, like we were saying at the top of the show, you had to fight through some weather challenges today. So we appreciate your patience and rocking through it and sharing your story with us today. If you enjoyed this episode, please look up Wolf's stuff. We'll make sure to check out Groovy Gravy, check out this awesome show, and support the local scene. We'd really appreciate it. We've got more great episodes coming up for you on this feed. Coming up for you soon, we've got an interview with Chad Westport coming at you within a couple days right here on the YouTube feed. And we have many, many more for the next several weeks. We've got a lot of great interviews on the way like this one. So thank you so much, Wolf. Thanks to, once again, to TikiMadMan over at tikiseeds.com. Thanks to the Grove Bags guys over at grovebags.com. Use the code CannaBuzz. And of course, thanks to our CannaBuzz fan. And thanks, Steven. We really appreciate your time today.
Yeah, no doubt, man. I'll actually make a CannaBuzz code for you guys for discounts for the Secret Sash tickets before they're sold out.
Cool.
Well, great. We really appreciate that.
Yeah, no doubt. It'll just be code CannaBuzz. Make it right now.
There you go. So thank you so much. And as always, JR, it's been a great one. And for all of our viewers, growers love.
Later, guys.
Thank you for having me.